What do we got?
Grant Leatherow writes, what recent movies, less than 10 years old, do you think could be looked back on as movies the critics got wrong at the time of their releases?
Usually for me, when critics don't like a movie, I'm pretty much in agreement with them. It usually when I disagree with critics is when they praise or overpraise certain movies. So 3 movies that come to mind are, and they're all Academy Award winners, Crash, Hurt Locker, and The Artist are 3 movies. Not that I hated those movies. I just didn't think they were as good as people were saying. Crash was, I felt, not subtle at all. It was very like, with the scenarios and talking about racism, it was just very, very heavy-handed. The Hurt Locker was very good in terms of tension and the action, all that stuff, but it had some pretty weak dialogue in it. And then The Artist, a movie I liked and enjoyed, I just didn't feel like if you had taken this movie, if it wasn't black and white and silent, you take that movie, put it back in like the 20s, people who seen it back then probably would have liked it and enjoyed it, but they wouldn't have gone gaga over it because they see that on a daily basis. I don't know. Christian, what are your thoughts?
I'm just going one, and I'm going popcorny, and I think that the critics were way too hard on Entourage.
So I agree with you.
I think because if you are a fan of that television show, it did everything that it was supposed to do. It had like 20% or 30% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think that's silly. I think that people were watching that. You got to watch it as a 4-episode arc, and that's what it is. And I think that if you watch that movie, you can have fun with it. I think sometimes people look a little too, especially critics, look too deep into things. So it was just the one that came up to mind to me. But I'm sure there are a ton of other ones.
David?
Both my films are in the science fiction genre, and to be fair, they did okay. I'm looking at Sunshine and Prometheus. Both, if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, whatever scale you want to use on that, they're both in the 70% percentile. So I mean, they're not like the majority of critics hated them, but there was just a lot of bad articles written about those saying like, oh, it didn't fulfill what, especially with Prometheus, like what Alien did. I think people were expecting to see Alien and Aliens, just done over again. I'm like, no, Ridley Scott tried to do something different. I thought it was inventive. I was curious about that movie. Sunshine, I thought was fantastic. A lot of the critics didn't like the last 20 minutes that it turned into a horror film, but I actually liked that, enjoyed just the whole aspect of that movie that Danny Boyle crafted. So for me, it's science fiction. Those 2 films, I think, were just criticized a little too harshly.
A movie for me that only did okay by the critics was Session 9 by Brad Anderson. It's like a psychological thriller / horror, very inspired by Kubrick's The Shining. I think it only got like 63% or something like that on Rotten Tomatoes, but I thought it was very excellent. I guess maybe because that's kind of what I'm looking for from a horror movie instead of like blood and guts and stuff like that. So